God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you to our very own Teneo Towns for the singing of our national anthem, and to the National Film Board for the images of our country. First on the agenda today, the adoption of the previous council minutes. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I move that council adopt the minutes of the City Council meeting held May 16th, 2022 as presented.
Perfect. Any comments or questions? I see Councillor Thiessen, you're in the queue. Okay, no. I'll call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 4, the adoption of the agenda. Look for a motion. Councillor Thiessen.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I lost out on the first one, so I guess I get the second one. I would move that council adopt the agenda as presented.
And I see, I'm aware of no additions or omissions, so I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 5, open delegations. And just so those who are watching are aware, the 3 p.m. portion of our meeting is open to the public. You're more than welcome to come. If you let us know ahead of time, that's great, but it's not required. We do ask, though, however, if you're planning to come to the evening portion, that you let us know ahead of time. There won't be an evening portion tonight for those who are watching, and there are no delegations that have let us know, so we definitely won't be coming back after the break today. For delegations, the first one's already up at the table. Normally I would call you up, but you're already here. And I don't see anyone in the chambers, so that is fine. Item 5.1, Ms. Duke. And so about 5 minutes to speak, and then questions will come from council, and then we deal delegation business at the end of our meeting. So please feel free to go ahead.
I want to say thank you for having us today, and thank you for allowing us to present. I'm Lois Duke, and this is Amy Lee Snyder, and we're on the committee for the Grand Gala Gathering. We're also board members of the Grande Prairie Friendship Center. I'm the secretary, and Amy's the vice president. We were tasked this year to work with our committee to put on a fundraising event from a partner, Hammerhead Resources, and part of their donation requirement was to hold a fundraiser so that hopefully their donation will grow to 2, 3, 4 times the size of what they've donated. So we decided to follow some of the more successful events in Grande Prairie, such as the Festival of Trees, as well as the Big Hearts for Big Kids. And we brought on Chantal Doucette to help with that. And we've been working very hard since we decided to put this event on. And as soon as January is when we started planning, and we realized it was a big event and we probably needed more time, but we just decided to go for it. We got about 3 or 4 weeks left to finish selling all our sponsorship tables, and I would say we're about 65% sold, and we're just looking to get some more people aware of our event.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Snyder, did you have anything to add?
No, thank you, not this time.
All right. Thanks so much. I'll open up to questions from council. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Thank you for coming. Some of us know the details of why you're hosting this event, but can you allude to exactly what you want to use the funds for and the purpose of this fundraiser?
A big portion of this fundraiser, we have the outreach kitchen at the Friendship Center. We serve well over 700 meals a month.
1,000.
So that program's not government funded. So this money from this gala, a big percentage of it will be going to our outreach kitchen so we can keep fulfilling our meals there and helping the community.
Thanks for that. Councillor Blackmore.
Because you're at the table and there may be people out there watching us, we never know for sure. Can you tell us a little bit more about the event, the date, the cost to buy a sponsorship, the cost to buy tickets? Sell your event like you have 1,000 people in front of you.
Okay, so on June 18th is when our event is going to be held. And part of the uniqueness of this event, it's the first of its kind in the region where we are showcasing Indigenous community and Indigenous talent. So what we have is a menu that's Indigenous inspired. There'll be Indigenous artisans with their artwork throughout the event, as well as a live auction of a live artist painting. So we really wanted to showcase Indigenous community and the talent and all of the contributions that the Indigenous community has brought to the area and Alberta. So we thought it's a great idea to have a grand gathering because historically our nations would gather, and we believe that we're all one nation and we should be gathering and we should be supporting each other. And this event is a unique way for the city of Grande Prairie to support the Indigenous community in a way that's never happened before.
And if people wanted to provide sponsorship, can you go through your levels of sponsorship and they would contact the Friendship Center and ask for you?
Right. We have many levels of sponsorship, like our elite sponsors, presenting sponsor which was Hammerhead Resources, and we have headliner sponsor. But one way that community can be involved is becoming a Friendship Circle table sponsor, and that includes 8 tickets for $2,600, and it gives a bit of a donation back to the organization to continue doing the work that we're doing. As well, it'll give the person a gourmet meal, a champagne reception. There'll be a wine at the table that was sponsored as well, and an Indigenous inspired meal, as well as a beautiful dessert that is made by one of our elders in our community. And we're going to have a lot of talent. The MC will be Lance Cardinal, and if anyone knows who that is, he designed there's a painting in the hospital that he did, as well as he designed the logo for the Edmonton Oilers and for their Indigenous awareness campaign, as well as he's going to be the one emceeing the whole event. And we're very fortunate that he decided to come on. And then again, Jason Benoit, who's an Indigenous artist who's won CCMA awards, as well as he's released many top hits. So it should be a fun event. But contact the Friendship Center and we'll be more than willing to give you some information and let you know how you can attend and support.
Great, thanks for that information. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton, and thank you, ladies. You answered most of my questions through Gladys, but the one that I'm just curious about, and I think I know the answer, is the date, June 18th. That's significant to Indigenous peoples, or within a handful of days for a traditional gathering. First day of summer, June 21st.
June 21st is Indigenous Day, or Celebration Day. And so we felt, being close to that date, that it's important to celebrate our culture. Indigenous culture gives so much back to the community. So to be able to come together before that day and to really showcase our culture and show the community all the beautiful parts of our culture. We'll have a video at the beginning that will be presented that will show some of our traditional dancers. And so gathering that day will be a really great event. And as well, on Indigenous Day, we will be having further events down at the Friendship Center itself.
Wonderful, and if anyone's curious, they do have a great Facebook page that you can follow and like. Thanks, ladies.
Awesome, thanks for that, Councillor Berg. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Thanks for coming in, Ms. Duke, Ms. Schneider. Looks like a great event. I know I already got my ticket for it. I noticed it's at the Bonnet Energy Center there too. And you're looking for sponsors. So I guess my question to you ladies is, have you reached out to the city of Grande Prairie for sponsorship? Is the Bonnet Energy Center part of a sponsorship or anything along those lines?
I don't believe we reached out to the city for a sponsorship, but we can.
Oh, the mayor.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I have received the sponsorship package from Chantal Doucette. Council is aware of the event. It's in their calendar. I understand many councillors are looking to attend. I do have one other person in the queue, but I understand you. I thought I understood you also had another request potentially today.
Oh, right.
Sorry, here.
We'd actually like to make a request from the city, or to the city. On the street in front of the Friendship Center, we would like to auction that off at our gala for renaming for the 1 year, similar to what was done at the hospital. So that's the request that we'd like to make to the city today. It's supported by our board as well. So I'm bringing that with full support of our board to request that we can auction off the name, just that street going in front of the Friendship Center.
Okay, so thank you. That's the official request. Councillor Bosch and Councillor Bressie are still in the queue. I guess council will do another go around in case you have questions about this. I ask if they're technical questions regarding our street naming policy, which we're actually updating tonight. We can wait till our delegation portion of the meeting and direct those to Director Glavin. But for now, questions for the delegation, Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I know that the work that you do it reaches so many, the vulnerable, the working poor, visitors. What did you do to earn money prior for your outreach kitchen, prior to this? Because this is a huge event, and I hope you are extremely successful.
Prior to this event, the last few years, we've been able to access specialized COVID funding at this time, which we know is going to run out here. We've also been able to gain funding from federal funding in previous years, but we don't have a large majority of that funding anymore. So this event will be huge for it.
Good. That's exactly what people need to know. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for organizing this event. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm excited that we get to support in such a fun way. I just want to make sure I'm understanding the street naming requests. Are you hoping to auction off 105th Street, which goes north-south, or 98th Avenue, which goes east-west? Do you know?
I think both would work, although our location is on 105th. Our address is on that street.
Okay. And then is the hope that we rename the whole street going quite a ways, or just kind of the section right up front of the Friendship Center? Just how much signage, how much are you hoping we do if we do allow that to be auctioned off?
This being our first event and our first request, we were willing to take smaller steps, and maybe perhaps down the road we can look at some different options. But that section of road right in front of the building would be preferable at this point.
Cool. Awesome. Well, and thanks for giving us a creative way to consider supporting you. That's always good when we've got some other options to consider, so thank you.
Thanks for that. Councillor Learners.
Well, thank you for the information. I have just a question for you, because it's always nice to see how much people support the community. What would be the budget for all the feedings that you do? That I think it's, you said $7,000 a month, times that by 12 months. Well, no, I think she got corrected. So I think how much?
It's between about 700 to 1,000.
Okay, so
It says.
She's correcting me. It could be a 7,000.
yeah, that's what I kind of thought it was that number, because we talked about that at Rotary.
I'm probably thinking of different numbers in my head.
Sure, but what kind of commitment do you make to that? I know it's an awful amount. I'm not an awful amount. It's a great amount, but I'm just curious to see what that is. Do you have any idea how much you guys put towards that? Yeah, your budget for the food.
I know he can cook a lot of food on a little amount of money.
No, yeah.
I don't have the budget off the top of my head, but I could get those numbers and I could email them.
Well, no, that's fine. So how much you hoping to raise then in this event?
Well, considering that the portion of the funds will go to Community Kitchen, but we also have other important programs that we want to get started, and there is no funding for that. There's a gap in funding for youth and children, and we're hoping to use some of this funding to initiate some newer programming for that age range, as well as we're looking to raise money to a building that has been many, many years since it got any TLC. So, you know, I'm not speaking on directly where this money is coming to, but we do have big dreams for the center. We want to make the center more beautiful, more appealing to people to come in. And part of that is a traditional healing garden that we're constructing on the west side of our building. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a place where people can go and you know, rejuvenate themselves back into a bit of nature and back into learning how to grow ceremonial medicines and just give us a different perspective to that building. And with that, we need windows on that side so that we can enjoy all the hard work that we've been putting into it. And I myself would have liked to be enjoying my coffee at the window today as Amy was out there
building garden boxes. I was down there building garden boxes.
Really, it's our blood, sweat, and tears that is going into the center, into these projects that we're doing. It's time away from our families, time away from other commitments, and we're really hoping that the community and the city take part and really make this a successful event.
I would invite you guys to drive down there actually and take a look what's going up. We have a greenhouse going up this week down there. So then we're hoping to build some of our own vegetables that we can use back into our kitchen. And yeah, we planted the garden boxes. There's tomatoes we're growing down there now, potatoes. So yes, I invite you guys just to take a drive down there and see all the work that's happening.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I hope that you tell everybody about it because it's a great story. So.
Thanks for that, Councillor Lerners. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Have you tied into any of the city's grants? So there's a facade grant, a beautification grant, a patio grant.
That would be a question probably for Executive Director Miranda, but I can put it back at her and I can ask her.
You could double your money on some of this, right? If it's 50-50?
I believe Miranda, our Executive Director, applies for as much as she can.
Perfect. That's a good avenue for you as well.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Toole.
Hey, that's me. I had the not take the advantage of going to the event, but now something's changed and I'd like to go. Are there tickets still available for me, first of all, or anybody else?
We did set aside tickets for delegates and dignitaries, so I believe that you fit into that category.
Okay. I'll even bring my wife.
So
thank you very much.
Councillor, it's currently in your calendar, and if you click accept, then that stuff, you get some support on that.
And I didn't, I denied it because I had other things, so.
So if you deny events, you can always call Amanda. She's happy to put things back.
I'm just waiting to make sure I got a ticket, so now I do.
All right. Ladies, I see no one else in the queue. I really want to thank you for coming today. I truly appreciate the work you're doing. I know many of us are excited to go to the event. And thank you so much. And I did drive by because I was curious. I had heard on the news about the healing garden you were building, and it's looking great.
I got to learn how to use a saw today. I was very impressed.
So just so you know, we do deal with delegation business at the end of our meeting. I'm expecting our meeting won't be too long. You're more than welcome to hang around, or someone from administration will follow up with you after the meeting. Okay? Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, so moving on, I'm just refreshing. Moving on to reports, item 6.1. Alberta Municipalities Resolution is in your package. I am going to give a brief introduction, not an interruption. And then if there's questions, I know that Mr. Tarrant is here. Between him and I think we could probably answer most of your questions, but I do see that Mr. Tarrant has an administrative report as well. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Tarrant for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So in the attached report, you'll find the descriptions of the resolution that's being proposed that we submit to the Alberta municipalities. In the report, it identifies that this was one of Council's strategic, advocacy priorities, in that there are it was noted that electricity transmission and distribution rates are becoming a significant burden on Grande Prairie residents, and that it's noted that there is a disparity in the rates across the province in terms of who pays for them and how much we pay for them in our service area. So the resolution would encourage the provincial government to take a look at this issue and to equalize rates across the province, as is done in many other provinces.
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction. Questions for administration? Councillor O'Connor.
I was going to move the motion, but if there are questions for that to happen,
I'll come back to you for business arising, but I'll just see if there's any questions in regards to the information or the resolution or even the process. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Mr. Chair, just looking at this graph, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like the rates have almost tripled since 2010, 2011. Is that accurate, and is there anything that had happened significantly to do that?
Mr. Tarrant?
Thank you. Through the chair, I couldn't speak to the exact causes around that, but the graph is from the Alberta Utilities Commission, so we trust the veracity of the data that they are presenting there.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Councillor Berg. Any further questions from Council? Just a little bit of background before I go to Councillor O'Connor for business arising. This will go to the fall Alberta Municipalities Conference. As noted, it's being seconded by the town of Drumheller, who originally had a similar type motion that had expired over time. We have heard from a couple municipalities that they're very interested in this and want to show their support, and we haven't even put it out there. So we know that this is a very topical conversation across the province. And I was asked today by Councillor Blackmore if there's an opportunity for the rural municipalities to do a similar resolution. I have had a conversation with Reeve Beaupre on this. Once this is passed, I'll spread it on, share it with her, and the expectation is that there may be something similar go to RMA. So great work done here. I thank Mr. Tarrant for the work that was done here, and I'll move to Councillor O'Connor for business arising.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Just want to just let you know that while I was at the Peace Library System meeting, the town of Fox Creek come and said, hey, you got to get behind this. And I told her we were all over it. So I'd like to recommend that council endorse the disparity in electricity and transmission rates resolution to be submitted for consideration at the Alberta Municipalities Conference this fall.
Thank you so much. That motion's in order. Comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, call the question.
Councillor O'Connor, how do you vote?
In favor.
Councillor O'Connor votes in favor, and that carries unanimously. Thank you for that, Mr. Tarrant. Moving on to item 6.2, the Power and Energy Purchasing Program and Contract. I'll look to Ms. Gardner for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Good afternoon. I'll provide a summary of the topic as I respectfully suggest that council's reviewed the report previously. Alberta Municipal Services Corporation has issued a call for municipalities to participate in a 10-year electricity contract. The City of Grande Prairie consumes approximately 24,000 megawatt hours of electricity annually. The consumption includes all buildings, traffic signals, street lights, and other lighting. The city is currently in a first year of a 5-year contract for all energy services. The Power Plus program will be carried out in phases. The current phase is looking for commitments from municipalities and other organizations by May 31st, so tomorrow. Then a request for qualifications will go out, looking for potential suppliers that will be evaluated on capability and capacity. And then an RFP will go out, and that will be for qualified electricity generators, and the contract will be for 2024 to 2033. They will implement the program starting January 1st of 2024. However, since we are currently in the first year of the 5-year contract, should we enter into this agreement, the pricing would become effective January 1st, 2027. So this would be a long-term 10-year contract, and it is directly with the wholesale market, which eliminates the wholesaler fees and provides cost certainty at a locked-in rate. Administration is recommending that Council commit to the program now, offering some cost certainty for the electricity budget through 2033. Administration cannot disclose current pricing due to the sales contract. However, we can advise that the cap will be a minimum of 4.3% less than the current contract rate. There is risk associated with the long-term contract, just as there is risk in waiting to see where the market is at the current contract's end, which expires in 2026. With that, I'll take questions.
Thank you for that introduction. Councillor Lerners.
Yeah, thank you for that. A question for you: if we create excess power, does that power generated, does it go to the Alberta pool, or does it go to this group's pool? We'll call it, for lack of a better word.
Ms. Gardner.
Mayor Clayton, so what would happen is first it would go to our facilities. So for example, with the Eastlink CHP, we had surplus power. So if we hadn't bought enough for other facilities, such as a new rec center, which we hadn't forecasted, it would go there first, and then it would go to the pool. So it'll depend on capacity within the buyers group, if they have capacity, otherwise it would go to the market.
Goes to the pool first and then to the market after that. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Thank you for the presentation, earlier presentation package, and this now. I guess mine is just a comment. Like probably many citizens of Grande Prairie, I certainly took an effort into locking in my natural gas and my power when we started to hear that, things may change. So I'm happy to see that administration is taking it upon themselves and presenting opportunities like this for all the residents of Grande Prairie. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, Mayor Clayton. Thank you to Michelle Gardner. Is this contract with AMSC, is that through one supplier, or is this going out for an RFP?
Ms. Gardner?
So Mayor Clayton, AMSC will be issuing the RFP to the generator market, and the generators would respond to the RFP. So there would not be an additional wholesaler in between. But AMSC would still be acting as the retailer on our behalf.
Okay. Subsequent to that, with your permission, I'm just curious as to the retailers. So someone still has to be and send out the bills and pass on ATCO's costs, correct? Costs, or whoever this transmission supplier is.
Ms. Gardner?
Mayor Clayton, I'm just thinking how to frame this. So I want to make sure I'm answering the question correctly. So I think what you're asking me is, will the retailer send the invoices out on behalf of ATCO? Is that the correct question?
Correct.
Okay, so yes, that's what happens. So the invoices are based on the consumption used by the organization in all of the, as I outlined. So the wires provider, which is ATCO, provides the transmission. It gets the electricity here and then distributes it. The contract would be with a separate retailer, like a generator, not necessarily ATCO. It would be whoever the successful proponent of the RFP is. Is that answering the question correctly?
Yes. Supplemental?
Sure.
Just curious as to, is this bought on the open market, or is this on the spot market? Where is this being purchased?
Ms. Gardner?
I see Ms. Gardner pointing to me. It's being bought from the generator. So it's the generator is saying, my machines will produce X number of megawatt hours. You as a customer want to buy 25,000 of those per year. I'll partition part of my generation and make it available through your wire service provider. So you'll still get power, but you'll get it directly from me.
Directly from the
generator.
Generator.
Yeah. So it just eliminates the wholesale market.
Okay, so it's not even going through the wholesale market.
That's correct.
And do we have that in writing stating that? Because I have a concern that we're going to enter into a contract that, you know, on the spot market, there are no 10-year contracts available.
This is not a spot market, so you're buying contracted power. Same as municipalities and other customers buy power purchase arrangements on long-term contractual arrangements. So very common in the marketplace. This is not retail spot market.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Gardner? Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, just look for business arising. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I move the council.
Just get your mic in front of you. Sorry. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
How about now?
Perfect.
I move the council authorize the execution of the Power Plus contract to participate in the Alberta Municipalities Powder Plus for procurement of 100% of the electricity requirements for the City of Grande Prairie starting January 1st, 2027.
That motion is in order. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Councillor O'Connor, how do you vote?
Not in favor.
Councillor O'Connor is in opposition. And that carries 8-1. Moving on to item 6.3, temporary waiver of parade fees. There is no report, and I will see who's presenting on this. Somebody put your hand up. All right, perfect, thank you. Ms. Cajolet.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. As administration prepares to host Canada Day celebrations and a parade for Canada Day, it has been noted that registration for floats is considerably less than it has been in past years. So as of today, we only have 16 floats registered for the event, still enough to proceed, but certainly the hope would be to increase that to provide a better viewing opportunity for the community. So administration is requesting that council consider waiving the, that council approve a temporary waiver of parade fees as outlined in the fees, rates, and charges bylaw for the 2022 year.
All right, so comments or questions on that? I see Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Ms. Cajolet, is it about $110 or $120? Is that the normal fee?
Thank you, through the chair. The fees are documented in the fees, rates, and charges bylaw. So for a nonprofit group, it would be free. For a profit organization, it would be $100 plus GST. So
right, $100. Okay. My question is, where does this money go in other years? The $100 fees.
Thank you, through the chair. The bylaw was implemented in 2019, and at which time we had already proceeded with planning for the parade for that year. And a parade has not been in effect since then due to the COVID pandemic. So the feedback received from applicants who have actually already registered for floats or those that were considering is that in light of the pandemic that this fee for this first time parade since COVID is causing some burden too.
So there has not been a cost prior to COVID?
The fee was certainly implemented prior to COVID, but we have not had a parade since.
Right. I'm asking, though, maybe I'm not clear. Did you ever charge anybody $100 or whatever fee prior to COVID, even though it, now it hasn't gone through, but 10 years previous, was there a fee?
No, prior to 2019, there was no fee.
Okay, so it's a first time thing. Are you able to tell me why this fee came about?
Certainly, it was a recommendation as part of the review with our comparator municipalities in developing the fees, rates, and charges bylaw, and it was the fee recommended by council at the time.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, just a reminder to those who weren't around then, 2019, we reviewed our fees, charges bylaw, and this was one of the many things that changed. We just haven't had a parade then, so there hadn't really been any public feedback on it. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So, Ms. Casually, just a couple of points of clarity. And to be clear, the fees are waived, but the application process for parades is still in effect.
Ms. Casually?
Through the chair, that would be correct.
Okay, and then you'd mentioned Canada Day specifically, but this would also fall, I guess any parade to the end of the year would also fall under the same umbrella.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you. I'm just curious how our application and standards work in terms of for a private business entering the parade. Is there a minimum decoration standard or anything like that to make sure they don't just take out a really low effort company truck just to show their logo?
Ms. Casually?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, there are requirements for the parade, and certainly for Canada Day, the request is that it's decorated in an appropriate Canada Day theme.
Great. And that's a request, but is there enforcement of that if somebody just shows up with just a plain company truck, not a big truck that little kids would enjoy seeing, but just a branded pickup truck? Is there enforcement of standards?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Councillor Bressie actually took my question, so I'll just make a comment because back when we set these fees, rates, charges, bylaws for the float, I think the consensus, or there's many on council at the time that were kind of, as Councillor Bressie said, underwhelmed by the amount of decoration, and to give people free advertising space and to see how long our parade got to just see corporate logos rather than festively decorated vehicles and trailers, and the creativity of our community on display for the Canada Day. And it was getting kind of long, so that's when we attached that $100 charge to it, just so at least we got something out of it rather than a long line of cars advertising businesses. So it's good to hear that that we do have some minimum standards for our parade participants, and I look forward to the floats coming out this year to see how creative our people really are going to be. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Thiessen. I see no one else in the queue, so I'll be looking for business arising. Councillor Thiessen.
Well, I thought Councillor Bressie was going to get that one, but I can make it.
Bressie, actually.
Oh, so I'm cancelled?
Turn on your mic, Councillor Bressie, and you're good. Yes, you've been cancelled.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
No comment. I'd move the council approve the temporary waiver of parade fees as stated in the fees, rates, and charges bylaw, C-1395 for the 2022 year. And just speak to it, I think that there were good intentions to make this parade even better and kind of call out some of the lower effort floats when council brought this in. But I'm also really confident that after a couple of years of not having a parade, that the people who show up will do a really good job. So I'm really excited for this parade, for the parade this year. And new councillors, you don't know stress until you're trying to put a piece of candy in every little kid's bag. So I hope we have a lot of floats so that that parade goes a little bit slower, so it's a little bit easier to give every kid a piece of candy.
All right, that motion is in order. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to committee business, item 7.1, the Community Services Committee of May 24th. And I'll look to Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I'd move that Council approve those minutes of the Community Service Committee meeting held May 24th, 2022 as presented.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I'll call the question on those minutes. Thank you. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen, you have a couple items, or one item of business.
Just one item of business. I would move that Council approve reallocation of 2021 capital grant funds already dispersed to Nighthawk Year-Round Adventure Park to be utilized in 2022. Just speaking to this motion, it was brought to Council's attention at the committee meeting by Mr. Clarkson that they still had about 42.47% of funds remaining from our capital disbursement from last year. And the reason why they're holding on to such almost 50% of their funds is they were really pushed to the max to deal with the slope erosion and setting up the new T-bar lifts. So all their efforts went into that, but they still have plenty of work to do that they did have scheduled for this past year that they will continue with here in the off season to help work to mitigate the erosion and to get the drainage under control on that hill. So I would encourage Council to support this motion because it's going to the good work that they promised they would do last year.
Perfect. Thank you for that motion. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Thiessen, any highlights from your meeting?
Yes, for sure. This would be my second order of business, I suppose. We did have two delegations at that meeting, one, as mentioned before, from Nighthawk, the other from the Grande Prairie Curling Center. And in updates from the committee, just in regards to our Community Knowledge Campus, Minds in Motion training was received by 4 certified fitness instructors at the Eastlink Center. And this means that they'll be able to undertake fitness instruction for people who are suffering from Alzheimer's, dementia, or other late-stage Parkinson, other issues that affect the brain. So that's a really good positive benefit, especially to our seniors population who may be more affected than others. Also, in events and entertainment, Brand Tractor signed on with the city to be the naming sponsor for the media suite of the Bonnet Energy Center. So big thank you to Brand for once again stepping up and being an excellent community player and supporting that. I'll look forward to having a beer in that room with you when the Storm get to play or at the next concert. Speaking of the Bonnet Energy Center, there has been a delay to the delivery of our scoreboard system. This is, I think, a global issue, it's based off of how we can get it transferred here or transported here as soon as possible. There's just a bottleneck in that system. So staff worked with the Storm and other ice users and is scheduling the installation for this December in 2022, which is a little bit later than when the season initially kicks off, but it will still be there for the playoffs, which I'm certain the Storm will make this year. Finally, we received an update on our climbing facility, and we received that report for information, and we'll look forward to doing more work going forward. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Thiessen. Moving along to item 7.2, the Infrastructure and Economic Development Committee meeting of March 24th. And I will look to Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Jackie Clayton. I'd like to ask Council to adopt the minutes of the Infrastructure and Economic Development Committee meeting held May 24th, 2022, as presented.
Thank you for that. Anybody see any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the questions on receiving the minutes from that meeting as presented. Please vote.
It was a leprechaun.
And that carries unanimously. Moving on to one item of business, Councillor O'Connor, 7.2.1.
Yes, I'm not sure who's going to speak to this, so I'll just go over to, is it Director Glavin? Or is it just?
It's just basically as presented. This was discussed at council, at committee.
Yep.
So
okay, then.
It's a motion in your package there to adopt the policy as revised.
It won't show up. So
just a bit of background. It's typically just a lot of housekeeping. The changes in there have been highlighted and the words have been strike through, And so it's really just for council to
Yes.
approve.
I'd like to see that council approve this policy number 619 as presented.
Perfect. So that motion's in order, and I don't recall if everybody was at committee that day. If there's any questions for administration, now is the appropriate time. Seeing none, I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. Councillor O'Connor, any highlights from your meeting?
Well, yes, we had quite a few highlights, and the one that jumps out at me that's really impressive, the city went down to the Edmonton Real Estate Forum, and one of our employees, Rebecca, did a presentation, and there was a question asked, what's the highlight of the Battle of Alberta? And what's the best city to invest money in? And we won 4-0. Grande Prairie was the place to invest in. So, woohoo! Okay, enough of that. So the Peace Region Energy Show, we had a booth. And economic development, we approved 15 cent letters of congratulation to 15 new businesses, and 2 business revitalization grants were approved, 2 training grants were approved, and on engineering, tender for the slope repair at 68th Avenue has been posted. In transportation, line painting has been started, and we're also going to do the painting of the Survivor Crosswalk and the Pride Crosswalk, and those are going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Not sure when the details are going to be, but we'll take part in that. And the asphalt plant is open, so potholes be gone.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to 7.3, the Corporate Services Committee meeting held May 24th, and I'll look to Councillor O'Toole, who was the chair that day, as I don't know, somebody was away. Councillor Lerners was away. There we go. Councillor O'Toole.
He asked me very nicely if I would fill in for him, and I said yes. So I guess we're probably going to exchange Christmas cards this year. I move the council adopt the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held May 24th, 2022 as presented.
Thank you for that. That motion is in order. I will call the question. And that carries unanimously. Any highlights, Councillor O'Toole?
Yes. Yes, I do. We had a report. It was basically all highlights. No motions are coming out of this meeting. It was updates. So Ms. Danielle Whiteway, Acting Corporate Services Director, presented the committee with an update on the current projected activities planned throughout the service area. One was being the multi-department ERP implementation, and it's going undergoing a second round of testing with Deloitte. As well, assessment and taxation, property tax notices are in the mail, and property owners should have received them by this time. They were due out June 30th. So, and the unaudited financial statements supporting information for the quarter ending March 31st were presented, and with that, that would be my report.
Thanks for that, Councillor O'Connor, or Councillor O'Toole, rather. Moving on to item 7.4, the Protective and Social Services Committee meeting also held on March 24th, and Councillor O'Toole again.
It's the hairstyle. I move the council adopt the minutes of the Protective and Social Services Committee meeting held May 24th, 2022 as presented.
The motion is in order. Seeing nobody in the queue with comments or questions, I will call the question. Please vote. And that carries unanimously. Highlights from your meeting, please, Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, got the Director Services Area Report. I can just do a few highlights. Once again, there's no business coming out of this information, but Community Social hang on here. Community Social Development Seniors Week is June 6th to 12th. FCSS regional teams will be joined by community partners in welcoming seniors to a free tea on June 6th at the Bonnet's Energy Center from 10 till noon to kick off the week. And Enforcement Services has had 5 units on shift. The 14th participated in a drive-by birthday parade for immune-compromised young gentlemen. Officers took some time to stop by Northside McDonald's on McHappy Day to support Ronald McDonald House charities, and enforcement has seen a significant number of speed infractions throughout the city, including numerous speeds of over 100 kilometers an hour in 60 kilometer an hour zones. And an enhanced present is planned in conjunction with the RCMP. We had one report from Ms. Wendy Hughes, Protective and Social Services Senior Executive Advisor, presented committee with information on the 2022 community safety initiatives, and several of the submissions received support. Actions already are underway, while others represent new opportunities. And there was 2 orders of business at the time of the meeting. One was vehicle window tinting and license plate covers. And I made the suggestion or request to find out more information on the quality of tinting. There's lots of vehicles that are tinted, mine is as well, but there are some out there that you cannot see who's driving the vehicle or the passengers. And I just wanted to know if there was any legalities regarding that or even the license plates. So we have a report coming back in the near future. And the VLA area parking permit passes, with the hospital not being an active hospital at this present time, we're going to look and come up with maybe a solution to resolve some possible parking back in place without permitting. And with that, that is my report.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Toole. They're moving along. There are no items of correspondence in our agenda today. Under delegation business, there was only one delegation here today. Item 9.1, Ms. Lois Duke and was here on behalf of the Grand Friendship Center event. I see Councillor Bosch in the queue.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I just have a question in regards to renaming the street, just because I don't know on the procedures on this. Is there issues with renaming a street, even if it's for a short time, with Google or ambulance, police, security, in regards to, like, do you transfer the name and the number, or what do you do?
So I'll just maybe Director Glavin give a bit of background on previous, how we've handled it, and some overview on your thoughts of this.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. So we don't change the name of the street. We add it to the street name. So Veterans Way would be a good example at 101st Avenue. It's co-named, so you would see Veterans Way, but you would also see 101st Avenue beneath it, similar to the hospital entrances. So we don't change addressing, but this does have an opportunity of having somewhat of a ceremonial name.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make a motion if that's possible. I'd like to recommend that council allow the Grand Gathering Gala hosted by the Grande Prairie Friendship Center to auction off the naming rights for 1 year of 105th Street between 99th Avenue to 96th Avenue. And just speaking to this, that is what Ms. Duke had specified, but also the other, and that runs north-south. The east-west corridor on 98th Avenue does run into West Side Drive to avoid confusion. I think we should run the north-south pattern, but also just for exposure too. It would cross 99th there, and so more people would see the sign of the winning bid for that event.
Sorry, just for clarification, Councillor Berg, can you tell me, so you're thinking from West Side Drive north?
Actually from essentially the Recycle Center to Domino's, if I'm landmarking.
Okay. Perfect. Is that clear, Director Glavin? Okay, comments or questions on the motion? I see you in the queue, Councillor Bressie. Is it still, you want to stay there? Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm struggling with this one a little bit, just in terms of approving it at this meeting right now. I really want to do this. I really want to vote yes, but I also wonder if it's prudent to bring this to the next council meeting so that we can consider it. And the reason for that is when we auction off the hospital sites, I did hear concerns from the community about why are you letting private companies buy these rights? And as soon as I explained, well, hey, it's because we let the hospital foundation auction off and it was a way for the hospital foundation to raise money, they were completely okay with it. But there is a little bit of community awareness work that I think might be worthwhile. I saw that there was a newspaper report, or a media reporter that took them out in the hall, and maybe this will appear in local media today. Maybe it'll give an opportunity for the community to hear we're considering this, and if there's feedback from local businesses, we should hear that. Also, there is a bit of a strategic one in this in terms of as we auction off roads, there's that opportunity becomes less and less valuable to nonprofit organizations. And for me, I'm pretty comfortable supporting hospitals, which are the #1 driver of our region. I'm pretty comfortable supporting the Friendship Center because it's such a key thing in our community, and feeding people and the programs that really do seem central to council's strategic plan. But at the same time, this actually is a significant decision to me. And so I'm a little bit hesitant just to do it with only 45 minutes of contemplation without council being able to have more robust conversation we can have here. So definitely support the intent, definitely want to name it, but just wondering if any others have issues just doing it right today instead of sending it through committee first.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Well, I'm going to agree with Councillor Bressie on the time aspect of it. I thought there might be an opportunity to digest this a bit more and really clarify what the best roads are. I think the other thing that I kind of have to speak against, because I know Councillor Berg means well and he wants them to get as much exposure as possible. But to a lot of people, it's, well, at least in my circle, that's called a recycle road. And I don't know if we want to attach that meaning to something else for the Friendship Center. When I thought I heard pretty clearly the ladies that came up, they asked for right in front, going east-west in front of the Friendship Center. And I think that would run right along with their medicine garden, as well as a lot parallel to the building, and really give it that oomph that I think that they're looking for when people go to the Friendship Center. So for all those reasons, I'd like a little more time to think and digest on it. And I'd just like clarity, because I'd hate to give them a road to auction off that they didn't actually want either, even though we mean well by it. Thanks.
Councillor Blackmore.
I have a couple questions. One is, do we have a policy that would respond to a sponsorship request like this?
Director Glavin.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm not sure that I could speak directly to sponsorship, but we do have a road naming policy that does have a procedure that you can apply to do this, that there's a number of things that you have to submit. For example, if you wanted to name it after a person, you would have to get consent of the family. And there's a bunch of other requirements that you would have to submit prior to this. The previous road namings have not gone through that process. They've been just resolutions of council.
My other concern is if we don't address this tonight, the next council meeting is going to be just days before their event. And if they're planning to auction this off as a fundraiser, we're not giving them any opportunity then to advertise or put together print material or do any of the things you need to do in order to create a successful fundraiser. So I feel that we either have to say yes tonight, or we'll do this sometime in the future if you want to have an additional fundraiser. But by not making a statement one way or the other tonight, we are handicapping them, and I don't want to do that.
Just had a question for Director Glavin before I go through the rest in the queue. Director Glavin, if this motion was defeated and there was a subsequent motion to bring back information to the next standing committee, would there be enough time between now and the next standing committee for administration to reach out to the organization and bring back options to the next standing committee?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. We could put together a very simple report between now and then if council so chose to do so. at the end of the day, the process can be very simple. It's, typically it's been a resolution of council as opposed to going through the formal process.
It just, my thought is that it may address some of the questions in regards to reaching out to the organization to see if they're okay with another location other than they suggested, et cetera. So it just may provide at committee level additional information if this motion is defeated. But yeah, Councillor Lerners.
Yeah, I think I'm in support of Ms. Gooch's, or no, Ms. Gooch, I'm with Gooch. Looking at different emails. Oochie Goochie. No, we'll try that. Go, Ms. Blackmore. Yeah.
Councillor Lerners.
Can I start over again? Yes, I think I'm in support of Ms. Blackmore's comments. I think if, a lot of these events, it's on the 18th, and we're not meeting again until what, the 13th, 14th, somewhere in there. Like it's 16th. We're basically we're going to be putting them right in a bit of a bind. The only problem I have is I got mixed messages because I don't know exactly. Because when I look at their address, it's a 98th Avenue address, and that's when they, but then they also said 105th Street. So I don't know exactly which one it is. So if there was some way to add some flexibility to that, because I'm indifferent either way. I want them to know that they have the certainty of us making a decision. It's only for a year anyway. It's my understanding. It doesn't stay forever. So it's just so no, it's not a lot of harm being done, even if we screwed it up. So I don't know. I would recommend that we get this approved today.
For those comments, Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Just thinking about what Councillor Brassey was talking about, as far as today and for the Friendship Center, I'm okay with moving ahead with it. I think, though, perhaps we need to look at it in its total sense. There are hundreds of not-for-profits out there, and they equally do great work by their own right. So is this something that is a moneymaker for all nonprofits? Are we setting precedents because we've agreed to have it now twice? And so I think we just need to talk about it because there is manpower involved, there is signage cost involved, and yes, they're all great things, but how do you pick and choose from the hundreds of great not-for-profits out there? So it's just food for thought aside of tonight's vote.
Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. I think we're missing an opportunity here. One, they've asked for a request. It's temporary, but I think we should be looking into a little bit farther into the future and look at truth and reconciliation as what it means. And perhaps this can be whatever they want to call it, and then it be turned into truth and reconciliation way, and in that way it becomes a permanent, and the temporary name gets below it saying this is XYZ, whoever bids on it. So I think there's an opportunity for the city to stand up and put their money where their mouth is.
Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, I think what I'm still stuck on is the specificity of the motion, and I don't know if it addresses exactly what the delegations were requesting, and maybe if it was a bit more generic. I'm definitely not opposed to renaming this or to adding to an auction site. I was just looking at the poster, which is included as a PDF on our calendar. The poster doesn't advertise any of the auction items on it. It just says, this is it, here's the Grand Gala, this is the date, here's where it is, come on down. And I don't think having the opportunity to bid on a city street is going to drive people to the event that they already said is about 65% sold on their tickets, which is a pretty good rate considering Grande Prairie is a very last-minute town. So I don't know if, even if we took an extra week, as Mayor Clayton suggested, that we wait for a standing committee to just have clarity so that we know what we're doing, we know what they want exactly, and we've all had at least a week to think about it. But I don't think this is going to prevent anybody or withhold anybody from going to the event because, oh, shucks, I was only going to bid on a street name. They'll probably have lots of other auctionable items there that also aren't advertise. So this is just one of those, and I've been to 3 fundraisers talking with the organizers over the last month and a half, and they were all waiting on their sponsors for auctions to come through with Oilers tickets, Flames tickets, WestJet tickets, whatever, which is why they don't advertise it, because sometimes it goes right to the very, very day before the event, before they get their hands on the goods, so to speak. So I'm not comfortable supporting this motion as it is right now, and if it doesn't pass, I would move it to a standing committee so that we can get clarity on this subject. Thanks.
Just another suggestion would be that the motion could be amended, that there, for the discretion of council of administration to work with the organization for the naming of an appropriate street in the area, the vicinity, if that was making council more comfortable. But I'll go to Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you, Mayor Clayton. You anticipated 1 or 2 suggestions I was going to make. My issue with it is the timing. I do think, just in general, I don't think council's well served by making decisions in the meeting they come up, and so there's a general just good governance thing for me when there's not a huge rush on this, and the specificity in terms of we get it wrong, we give too specific direction, administration can't tweak it. So I can't support this. I can't support this motion as is. So if it goes forward, I'll be voting no. But if this motion does get defeated, 2 options for council is pass a motion that's saying administration work with them to name a road, so we're giving administration discretion. Or the other option is, I hear the need for timeline, and for me, I've done a lot of silent auction fundraisers in my day. I don't think I've ever had all my items more than a week out of a fundraiser. That being said, approving it on the Monday I get is a quick timeline. So, but council does have the right to delegate decisions we make to committees. So if council wants, we could pass a motion delegating this decision to the appropriate standing committee so that next Tuesday a decision gets made instead of 2 weeks from now. So I'll be voting no to this motion as it is, but if it does get defeated, those are 2 options we can consider, because I really do want to make this happen for them.
Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion as is today, with recommendation the council or committee, sorry, the CLT works with the Friendship Center, and we'll make it what both parties are quite in agreement with, and then administration can forward that on and let them have it. We know that it's going to be a street one way or the other. I think most of us agree that we're going to support it. It's just a matter of making the decision today. I think let's just make the decision that we're going to do it and have administration work out the details. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. And I'm perfectly fine with removing the specificity behind it so that we can work to find the appropriate road. But again, when I look at Google Earth, I see the road right up until that 98th is already West Side Drive, so I can see some complications there. So, but again, I don't mind confirming that or resolving that and removing how specific it is, but I would still like to see this voted on today. Yes, I'm amending my motion. To remove the address and that administration work with the Friendship Center to find a adequate road.
So I'll just sort of wordsmith a little bit. The motion would be to council direct administration to work with the Grand Gathering Gala to find a suitable location for a 1-year honorary naming dedication in proximity of the Grande Prairie Friendship Center.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Exactly.
No.
Councillor Blackmore's in favor. Apparently my computer's quit working.
Sorry.
Oh, we're not?
That's
I thought
fine.
you called the question.
No, I'm waiting for her to update the motion. Then I was going to call it.
Well, I'm still in favor.
Well, you never know. Wait till you see it.
It's in a pot. And we're all very anxious.
Director Glavin, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Just wanted to confirm in the motion, are we still referring to roads or road? I didn't catch whether it was one or plural. Okay.
Everybody's got the number 1 sign up for you, Director Glavin. All right, so currently in our East Private Council direct administration to work with the Grand Gathering Gala facilitators to find a suitable location for a 1-year honorary street naming dedication in support of the Grande Prairie Friendship Center. Councillor Berg, are you okay with that as?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for the help.
No worries. Comments or question on the motion as worded? Councillor Bressie.
No, thank you. It's I think it's not specific, so you can get me. I still think that I hope we don't get in the habit of acting on delegation requests this quickly, but today I'm okay with it, mostly because I got a real soft spot for these folks. Just a question for Director Glavin. I'd assume that there'd be some brand standards that would go along with your discretion in this area. For example, I don't know if they'd sell it to them anyways, but I wouldn't want to. There's some types of business I might not want to purchase. I don't want it to be well, I won't even name a business, but there's some types of business that I don't think council would want to buy this. So, Director Glavin, I'd assume that you'd retain some discretion with who purchased these rights?
Director Glavin.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. In previous motions, it was also pointed out that the Infrastructure and Economic Development Director would have the ability to approve the name. So long as that's the intent, we would certainly ensure that it wouldn't be anything controversial, or at least that would be our intent.
Okay. And do you need the motion to specify that, or is that something you could just do within your authority with the motion as is?
I think we're okay with the motion as is.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Please vote.
Amen.
Amazing. And that's carried unanimously. Moving along, there are no notices of motion this evening, and we will not be having a recess. I'm going to jump to council member reports, and I just remind council, if you have external committees that you sit on, now would be a great time to update things that are happening on those committees, in addition to your extracurricular activities. And I'll start with Councillor Thiessen. Oh, I apologize, Councillor Bosch. I see you're in the queue. Was it something in addition?
Well, yeah, in addition to this last subject, is it now that we could, or I could make a motion in regards to working on the process of this whole, dedication of streets? I think it's just a little bit wide open, in my opinion. And is now a good time? Is it okay?
You can go for it.
Okay. I move to ask administration to bring back to the appropriate committee to look into the complete process of street naming and in regards street naming, period. I guess my concern is what I said. There's hundreds and hundreds of not-for-profits, and they all are extremely valuable. This does come with, when someone is turned down, and for whatever reason, I just want to see a clear process for everybody and not just the select few that get this opportunity. And then bringing in some of the issues and questions in regards to what kind of business name and the appropriateness of owning that street name for a year or 6 months or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bosch. Just discussing with CAO Nicolay, as we are aware, we just updated our road naming policy. This would be in particular with sponsorship. So possibly your motion could just be amended to identify that it's road naming in regard to sponsorship.
Oh, perfect. Yes, I'll take that amendment.
Comments or questions on the motion? Councillor Bressie.
Great. I'm just trying to so I'm just trying to get Councillor Bosch's intention here. Is the intent that administration bring a written report to council with recommendations from administration, or is it just that this get added to a standing committee agenda so that committee can discuss it and give administration direction coming out of that discussion?
Councillor Bosch?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'm good with either, whether it goes to a committee or administration bring it back. They know what they're doing. I'm confident in that. I just want to make sure there's no gaps for future organizations that may perhaps get turned down, or all of a sudden we have, a huge amount of manpower going into making signs, putting up signs, taking down signs. It may not sound like a lot of time and money, but you have to always look at every cost and every effort, especially when it comes to who gets things and who doesn't. I think equality is important for our community. So if administration wants to take it, fine. If you want to bring it to a standing committee, I'm fine with either, whichever works better for you.
So if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
So then I guess I'd ask administration, how would administration interpret this motion? What would be happening with this motion?
Director Glavin?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Could I get you to restate the motion?
Ms. Karbaschewski, as currently worded.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Council refer the process of street naming dedications for the purpose of sponsorship opportunities to the appropriate standing committee for discussion.
Director Glavin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Is there? Yeah, we can certainly put something on the report. Report back on. Is there any specific criteria, or this is just a process issue that you're looking to establish for sponsorship?
Well, number one, there's a cost to everything you do for the city. I'd be curious what the cost is per one, and then if we're timesing it by 100 or 150 in a year, or it's 6, I don't know. But there is a cost to doing any type of business, so I'm curious on that. And then I would like to know about provisions in regards to who and what can go on a sign. And that would probably already fall into some sort of policy that you already have in the city. But I think the public needs to be aware of that some name that could be misconstrued as unacceptable in the city's eyes, that needs to be front and center to people before they start bidding on this, because they're all bidding for a good cause. But, we have to be cautious as a municipality on what goes on our streets overall. And then the third thing is the inclusion piece for all not-for-profits. Or does this go outside of not-for-profits? I would like to look at the bucket of this and see where we fit as a municipality. What's our role in this? How much do we put into it? I just don't want, the top big not-for-profits getting, something that is great for them. And I totally appreciate when, a tiny 2-person not-for-profit is just as valuable in their own regard.
Director Glavin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. I think ultimately the cost here is somewhat negligible. Like, we'd be under $100 per sign. So in this case, we're probably talking of, depending on which road they choose. In the case that we just discussed with the Friendship Center, we're talking, say, $200 to $500 in that case. With regard to criteria in the procedure that that we have already adopted, it does cover off any of those things, so that ultimately we would have to bring the name back to council. So let's say somebody wanted to do a road name in recognition. Willie DeWitt Drive would probably be one that everybody's familiar with, 105th Street over in Avondale. Council would still have approval of naming that road after administration processed the application. I think the main thing that we're missing here is just this sponsorship piece that right now it's ad hoc. It's if somebody comes to council that we're allowing this to happen. There's not a sponsorship avenue currently that's covered off in policy 619, which is road naming.
So
and that's the missing gap I think you're trying to address.
And Councillor Bosch, if I can just jump in on the policy in there, if you click the item 6.19.1, it talks in the procedure specifically about names to avoid, right? So this basically goes to administration. They have at their discretion. It comes back to councils for final approval as currently. As Director Glavin said, you really just want to talk about the sponsorship element of this.
Right, because the piece that is missing to me is at the night of the event, when someone is bidding, do they know every bit of this policy, right? And does that come back to council if we approve? And if we don't approve, then that event holder has lost that money. No?
Sure, I guess, but I kind of think you're making this more complicated than necessary. Okay. But if you want to talk about sponsorship so that we set nonprofits on the path for how that'll happen in the future, then let's go back to committee and talk about it.
Okay. Make it as easy as possible. Yep. Not like this.
Councillor Blackmore.
My interpretation of the motion as it's written is that this goes to committee for discussion. And currently, I don't think we have given administration any direction whatsoever. Right. So I am still undecided whether I'll support the motion or not, because I think that it's an area that is already being handled between council and administration, and it doesn't need to be beat to death, I don't think.
Yeah, and in echoing that, the only thing I would say is that the motion is currently worded has it coming back to standing committee for discussion without administration bringing back any recommendations.
Okay. Can I ask the question, does administration at this point think there is any point to this motion in regards, do you think it's all covered? Because if you think it is all covered, I'm not going to waste your time.
Director Glavin?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Right now, there's no formal process to apply for sponsorship for a road naming. Right now, there is a process to apply for an honorary road naming, but not to auction one off without having it vetted through the city. At least certainly none that I'm aware of.
Okay, then I think it's fair to have a discussion at committee.
Okay, so then your intent is to have a discussion at committee with committee members and then potentially business arising from that. Okay, perfect. Councillor Bressie.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't need the discussion right now, but it's a bit of wait and see what happens. I think the two requests we've had from these were coming from unique organizations. It was first of all, it was the Hospital Foundation and the Friendship Center, which have very prominent places in our community and which have missions that very much align with council strategic goals. But also these were for big gala events where we know there's going to be high dollar donors in the room, and we know that there's going to be a lot of recognition in that room for the city sponsoring this and a lot of awareness being generated about what's going on. To me, those are very different events than a small nonprofit that's not essential to our community. It's essential to many people's lives, but it's not as broadly central to our community, and a small fundraiser that I'm expecting it only to raise a little amount. So I think there's only a few organizations and a few events in town that fit these criteria and are like the ones we've given this to before. And so for me right now, I don't feel the need to have more discussion. If we start getting smaller events making the same request, then yeah, I'll want to have discussion about what's the criteria, but I don't think we need to have that at this point.
All right, further comments or questions on the motion? Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I won't be supporting this. I think that in previous naming rights, the CLT team has done a great job. I know Reg Isley Way that was auctioned off at Festival of the Trees. There was a significant amount of money that went to in memory of, well, Reg was still alive, but it went in his, and it brought joy to him to see his name on the thing. So these are not going to go for $25. These are going for tens of thousands of dollars. So I think the director's got a good handle on it. Thank you.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. After hearing all the discussion and sort of the reasoning, I don't know if I too can support this. I was already a 50-50. But I think this is already addressed, as you alluded to, Mayor Clayton, in Section 2D, number 3, just under the reason/justification for the request. So I know it doesn't say sponsorship or auction or whatever, but the sponsorship or the auction, that's the reason or the justification for the event. We're trying to raise money for our organization. And I think it's covered there, even though it doesn't say specifically. So I don't think we need to beat this horse to death. I'm ready to dismount. Thanks.
Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. And just to Councillor Bosch's point about somebody's out money if they don't get the way they want. If it is negative, there are so many people that they could honor that, again, administration would say, no, can you find something more positive or find somebody to honor? So the money isn't lost if they don't get their way. It's just a matter of going down your list of people that you want to honor. Or again, change it to the point where you do want to honor somebody as opposed to promote something negative. Because I see that's the only way that it could go awry. So, again, much like the hospital with Reg Isley Way, again, a very altruistic, good people. And I see that's the way that this would go too.
Great, thanks for that. Seeing no one else in the queue, I will, unless Councillor Bosch, did you want to close on your motion?
I can close. You know, I see where this is going, so I can withdraw this motion. It's fine. It has nothing to do if somebody's getting $10,000 or $25. It was the point of being fair to anybody who wanted the privilege of doing something like this. And if we're ready for, you know, someone saying to us, well, they got to do it, why can't I do it? You know, my not-for-profit is equally important to people, you know. But I understand, and then if this comes up in the future and it does become an issue, then I guess we can deal with it then. So I'll withdraw the motion.
All right. So that motion is withdrawn. And I will now move to council member reports, starting with Councillor Thiessen. And reminder, including external community.
Of course, yeah, I always do. Yeah, so I got a few here today, so don't worry. I got lots of details here. I'll cover it off. Had a meeting with the Grande Prairie Storm. That was on the same day that we raised the flag for the International Day for Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. So I was a little late arriving to that meeting, but apparently the talk was all about the coach and what our strategies are and speaking with Hockey Canada. So I didn't miss much at the front of the meeting. And then the back end of the meeting, we talked largely about our preliminary budget and how the Storm wants to go forward. And I can tell you, just talking to the members around the board or listening to their conversation, there's a lot of excitement building around the Storm this year for the potential for them to put a very excellent winning product on the ice. That's including with how well they finished the season off last year as well, winning I think it was 15 to 17 games to almost make the playoffs. So that was really good for Storm and lots of optimism. We also have the Grande Prairie Storm charity golf fundraiser coming up here shortly as well, if you weren't in the know. Also on the 19th, I had a Community Advisory Board on Housing and Homelessness meeting where we covered the point-in-time count and we reviewed the methodology behind how we're going to do that for this year's point-in-time count. We also reviewed last year's work and to see if there are any gaps that we had, and nothing major came up except that we will largely be doing this on our own. So if we know any volunteers or any members from council, I already volunteered my services, point-in-time count, and I did volunteer council service, but I did not mention any names specifically. So that's on you guys if you want to take part. That happens in September. We also reviewed our work plan going forward and updated it as according. Also attended the Grand Spirit Foundation Executive Committee meeting this past Friday. Some big highlights from there, as it was our executive, so it still has to go through the actual board, which we did make a motion at that meeting to stop creating to stop the delineation between the executive committee and the general committee, since there are 11 board members on our executive and 11 board members on our general. So we thought, why would we have an extra meeting here when we can deal with business this way? So this is going to go forward, and it's kind of rubber stamping it as it's been in talk to death. But we updated our business plan for Grand Spirit Foundation. One of the new inclusions was for a potential seniors home out in Grovedale. as the MD of Greenview has purchased a plot of land and there's a need out in that area, and some discussion around their council table as to if we don't have a house in Grovedale, then why are we supporting Grand Spirit Foundation? But it was good. We deferred that. We put it on our business plan, nice, quick, and easy, and we said the bolt and all that other good stuff is in there as well. So we also talked late in the meeting around the mental health of seniors, and it seems like 8 out of 11 members from around our board have been hearing that with the restrictions from COVID still happening in our seniors' homes and in our care homes, that a lot of seniors are still feeling isolated, masked up, separated from their families, and their mental health is waning. And many of them are, well, passing away, let's be honest. And it's not all due to COVID. So we collectively as a board asked our Executive Director, Steve Madden, to write a letter to ASHA, who is our provincial lobby wing, to talk with the Alberta government, Alberta Health Services, and see how long our seniors have to endure these restrictions. And as some members from around the table described it, as being treated like, well, it's going to sound harsh, but treated like criminals or prisoners in their own home. So we're hoping to see some changes there, especially with Alberta Health Services, but we thought the best way to do that was to work through ASHA. Finally, just on events, I was able to attend the Blossoming Garden of Hope event, which was a tearjerker and a great day. I was sitting with Mike O'Connor as the speakers were talking, and right after our First Nations ladies told their stories, sang her songs, and did a little drumming, we sat down for the presentations. Would you know it? An eagle flew up over top of the proceedings, and I tapped Mike on the leg and I was like, look up, and there's an eagle gliding over top. So I know that's a great sign for a great thing happening just beneath our Grande Prairie Regional Hospital, which will be a great place for people to go and gather hope and mourn, grieve, and enjoy the beauty, which we all need a little extra in our lives. Finally, the Stampede was this past weekend, and I know I took in some of the events. I know many of you took in the events. The Midway was great. But you know what my highlight of the Stampede was this year? It was literally the Stampede Parade. It was getting to ride in the back of the truck and not having to do the grunt work. I got to babysit Mike O'Connor, or Mike O'Connor was babysitting me in the back of the truck. Either way, we're holding on to each other so we wouldn't fall out. And I got to watch the mayor and several members of council, Councillor Bosch, Councillor O'Toole, and Councillor Blackmore, like pound the streets. And I tell you, if you ever want to see how to do a parade, watch Councillor Blackmore and Councillor O'Toole, because even though they got the gray hairs, they walk and they do those parades and they hand out as if they're 20-something-year-olds. So kudos to them, because I think between them and the mayor, they probably handed out all of our free transit rides to the Stampede grounds, advertisements for all the kids on the streets. So thanks to you two for giving me an easy ride with Mike O'Connor, and I'll pass it on. Thank you.
So much, Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'll start with on May 17th, myself, Councillor O'Toole, Councillor Thiessen, I think that was it. Were you there? At the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia for the flag raising event. That was the first time for me, and it was really great to hear their speeches, speaking from the heart and what this day means to them. And then just before Pride Month here coming in June. Next, the same day, Sport Connection board meeting. And just so that you know that Try It Day is coming back June 11th. And that's for kids age 6 to 17 to try new sports. And they have about 25 different sport organizations that are willing to show these youngsters what they can do in their out of school. One, in fact, that kind of struck me was the Center of Creative Arts also signed up, and I'm not sure. I didn't know it was a sport, but maybe it is. But with their arts and crafts, and they can show the kids in some of the capacities that they run their organization for. Fun things to do. Maybe if you stay up all night doing it, it becomes a sport. Of course, the Peace Energy Show was on. I know everybody here at Council attended that at one point or another. It was great to see a number of businesses come out and the public to, I guess they don't call it the Energy Show anymore, do they? Do they?
It's the energy show now, not the petroleum show.
Petroleum show it used to be. Okay. Councillor Thiessen was talking about the parade. That was great. First time for me, other than running one, actually being in one. That was fun. And the bust out barbecue that morning was really good. Just a note for everyone, the street performers, the International Street Performers is back this year for 2022 in its regular capacity, July 22nd to 24th here in Grande Prairie, and a few days earlier there'll be little, mini shows in the other small communities in the region. So 22nd to 24th, Street Performers is looking for volunteers, so it would be great. I won't talk about, I'll talk about something else that nobody else was really at. On Saturday, I went to the, and I might say this wrong, Kinnawash Foundation event, and what that is it's sanitary supplies for the vulnerable women in our community. And this is in part with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of good health and wellness. So I was happy to be a part of that. And then we got to check out a new event spot in the city center on 100 Ave. It is a group of people that are, a cultural group, which are encompassing several groups. So there is Caribbean, African, I can't remember the other owner, but willing to do all kinds of events for people under, or a group under 100. And so it'll be great to see some new types of events and people welcome to come to these, these hostings. Aside of that, they host for birthday parties and conferences too. So nice to see a new business open up. And yeah, I'll stop with that.
Thanks for that, Councillor Bosch. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you, Mayor Clayton. The absolute highlight of my time was Friday. I got to welcome a couple classes, one of them with Councillor Thiessen of St. Gerard into these chambers to do mock council meetings. Those are always the best parts of this job, hands down. But a few things of interest to the rest of the council is I got to spend a couple days with the Alberta Municipalities Board here in Grande Prairie, and then we got to spend some time with the mid-sized city mayor. So big shout out to Mayor Clayton to make sure those groups got up here. I got nothing but positive reports and repeatedly from the same people about how welcome they felt in Grande Prairie and how they were amazed by how great our facilities are and how awesome a community we are. So always fun to get people up here. The 2 days with the board, we got to do our strategic retreat, which was a lot of time talking about financial statements, and we got to talk about bylaw review. So riveting day there. But we also got to spend some time talking about future upcoming work with RMA, and something I'm learning about Alberta municipalities. It's kind of like us and the county, where you, as an outsider, you sometimes only hear about some of the negatives and points of conflict, but the two organizations really do agree on 95% of the things that they talk about, and really do work really well together, even though we don't always get to see that. So I'm looking forward to some upcoming opportunities to meet with RMA and Municipal Affairs to talk about LGFF funding allocation. And also our next board meeting will be a joint board meeting with the RMA board. So looking forward to those. One other thing that I'll highlight is yesterday I got to be part of the Youth Advisory Council meeting. And CO Nicolay, Director Manuel, a couple staff in your service areas that I really want to shout out is Nicole and Michaela came there. Nicole's our regular facilitator of that. And Michaela came from comms to talk about the social media brand of Youth Advisory Council, and just appreciate staff coming in on a Sunday night, because that's when the meetings are. But also it was fun to have Michaela take them on a tour of City Hall, and Nicole to welcome them as well, as she always welcomes them. And really cool to see them just take these youth voices so seriously and really working really earnestly to figure out how these kids can have more voice in our community and our city. So really appreciated those two staff members yesterday. And just so council's aware, most of the meeting we were talking about going forward social media voice of Youth Advisory Council, and the council members had some really good ideas, but something I brought forward and they were really welcoming of is the idea of council itself probably should have more involvement in those in future photo ops they do and future opportunities they do, because we'd love to show that we support the work they're doing, and we really appreciate that. So we did talk about that at the meeting. And something that came up in the roundtable is this is not a Youth Advisory Council initiative, but several members of our Youth Advisory Council are on it, and it sounds really cool. They're on their own initiative. They're starting a monthly newsletter called the Grande Prairie Youth Report, which will highlight things from a youth perspective that are going on in the community. So their first newsletter will come out this week, and I'd encourage council to go to gpyouthreport.online or look for GP Youth Report on social media, and please subscribe to their newsletter, because I think you'll get some interesting perspectives there.
Thanks for that, Councillor Bressy. Councillor Lerners.
Yes, thank you for that, Mayor Clayton. I had the distinct advantage of being gone for the last week and a half, so I got to attend the square root of Sweet to Tweet. But I did go to the Stampede.
What's that square root?
The square root of Sweet
to
Tweet?
Nothing? Got it. Okay.
It's for all you mathematicians out there. So I go to Stampede, and I did go to the Grande Prairie Hospital Community Foundation Appreciation Dinner, or not dinner, but event that they had, celebration. So it was nice to see all the people that value our hospital foundation and all the good work that they do, and I know we've supported it. And I was just, the list was long, and the people enjoyed themselves, and kudos to them for the great job they did. So other than that, I think that's about it.
Thanks for that, Councillor Lerners. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I joined via Zoom. Oh, here, just for Councillor Blackmore. The ICFSP, which is the Inner City Forum on Social Policy. 18 different cities across Alberta participate in this and share information, and so that was via Zoom on Saturday. Also, I sit on the Nighthawk board. A lot of the conversation continues to be around slide rebuilding and how to get people back up the hill. But at the same time, the Bearpaw Par 3 golf is open. That's run by the same organization, Nighthawk. And that is here in the city. It's a wonderful place to take the family, or if you're not a long drive golfer like me and you just like the chip and the putts, then it's a great place to go for an afternoon. Other things that I did, I got to judge the Stampede art competition and then head out to Stampede and watch some chuck wagons, always a great event. Took in International Museum Day, and I always have enjoyed being a tourist in my own town, and although I've been to the museum a handful of times, getting out to the outbuildings is a little more challenging because they're only open in the summer. And just taking a little bit of time to read the stories and look at those old photographs. We have an exceptional small museum here, and absolutely I suggest everybody this summer take 2 or 3 hours and get down to our museum. As was mentioned, the mid-sized mayors were in town, and I popped over right next door from the Teresa Sargent Hall into the Art Gallery of Grande Prairie, where there was a chamber mixer going on, and hats off to the Art Gallery staff, because they literally got the show hung up minutes before people started arriving. So it's no small task, but they got it done, and the gallery looked great. And so that's some of the activities I took in.
Great, thanks for that, Councillor Berg. Councillor Blackmore.
I attended a Downtown Association meeting, as I'm the council rep on that board. And the new thing that people will see from the downtown area businesses over the next few months is a newly introduced gift card that we may see by September, and will be a lot easier for businesses to track and to sell, and for people to use and to give as gifts. So the retailers downtown and the other businesses, offices, et cetera, will all be able to use the gift cards, and we're looking forward to that launch. I also attended the Mid-Sized City Mayor's dinner and at Teresa Sargent Hall, and the Art Gallery event that followed that. And I really want to congratulate our own mayor and CAO, as they both facilitated. They were both wonderful hosts to the province. There's 22 communities that come to that event, and I think you did an extraordinary job. And I heard nothing but great things about what an awesome town we live in. I wanted to also mention the Stampede Parade because I wanted to throw a bouquet to Councillor Thiessen, who managed to stand in the back of that truck and get everybody from Muskogee Park to City Hall to yell, "Yeehaw!" So good job. Without a band or anything like that, it was a pretty quiet parade. And I think we were the only float, only entry making any kind of noise whatsoever. So thank you, Chris, for that. And one further thing for the upcoming Try It Day, I really think Councillor Bressie should make good on his promise to take the rest of council disc golfing and teach us what it is he does in the trees.
Thanks for that. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I do also want to thank you very much for this last month of being a mayor that never sat down and didn't get much sleep. You did a remarkable job this last couple of weeks for sure. And Mr. Nicolay, the same goes to you. I can just tell you that I gave greetings at the flag raising at the International Day of Homo, Bi, and Transphobia. Greetings to the FCSS meetings. I gave greetings with the chamber event at CMB Insurance Brokers. They moved in their old office that was just out here to a larger, expanded their business. And I made mention that, you had all kinds of places to move to. You could have moved outside our borders, but you stuck here and you grew by 14 people. So that's it's an amazing thing that they accomplished, but there was a lot of sweat equity in there to get to where they got. Also attended the Alberta Mid-Size Cities meeting here and dinner, and I helped entertain out there at the rodeo grounds. I attended the Charles Spencer High School grad, and I've attended many, many over the years, and this one just was a soft spot in my heart. The teachers and the students that showed love for each other, and they were able to give them a hard time, but I think there are going to be some awesome graduates coming out of that school. I did a lot more other things here, but I did walk in the IGA Wealth Management for Alzheimer's at Muskogee Park on Sunday. I started off wearing a cowboy hat, and if I wasn't hanging on to it, it would have been in Besançon by the time I got around. So I took it off and got a little bit wet, but I did it for my father. And with that, I attended the Regional Hospital Donor Appreciation event right after that. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor O'Connor.
I thought there would be nothing left for me by the time it came around, but there were a couple of events that some of us went to. In particular, the FCSS Northern Region meeting was very well done. That's Family and Community Services, and they did a wonderful job of communicating. And the reports went a long time. When you have reports from 37 communities, all of them were concerned about homelessness, energy costs, and so it was a very, very good event. Also, at the Stampede, the hee-haw, I was hoarse after the parade, thanks to Chris. There were a lot of people. We were in the noisiest float, there was no question. The poor driver, Chris, was beating on the top of the hood, and the poor guy was deaf when he got out of the truck, but whatever. And also, went to the Peace Library System meeting, and they're concerned, they're very huge support in our submission to Alberta municipalities for energy costs and transmission costs, and so they're feeling it, and also their cost, because they deliver throughout the whole piece, their gas costs are starting to become a problem, like 4 to 5 times what they normally spend. So that's a concern for them. And condolences out to the Trim family. That was a very moving ceremony, and our hearts go to them. And a huge kudo to our mayor. Like Councillor Toole said, our mayor was right there, and she carried this city, and along with CAO Nikolai. They made us very proud. And aside from a tie being kissed by someone, there was no events that went sideways. So thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing, Councillor O'Connor. Absolutely, it was a very busy couple weeks. Many of the events I attended have already been mentioned, but I'll just highlight a few that not everybody necessarily was at. Myself and CEO Nicolay, I think Mr. Tarrant was there as well, attended the Northwest Polytechnic. Thank you to the external stakeholders. It was an opportunity to thank people that participated in the surveying, collecting data to sort of help them with the rebrand, but also to help them in their strategic planning. So it was a good, very brief event, but it was an opportunity in particular to meet the new general manager at International Paper. Council will see in their calendar coming up. We're going on a tour out there, so you'll have an opportunity to meet him then. But he seems, from the brief discussion we had with him, a very engaged individual, so I look forward to meeting with him further. Attended, as mentioned earlier in our meeting, the Edmonton Real Estate Forum with our Invest GP crew. Thank you to Ms. Dodd for being on a panel and speaking with multiple investors from across the region. And yes, as mentioned, when questioned on that panel, where those developers would choose to invest, Grande Prairie was their number one choice. As many attended the Peace Region Energy Show. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for continuing to put on a very full, successful event and providing an opportunity for us to highlight oil and gas in our region. Attended the Stampede Proclamation as well as the kickoff luncheon, and I wanted to highlight a couple of winners that were highlighted that day. Congratulations to Ray Don Barker, who was awarded the Stampeder of the Year award that day at lunch, to Brant Tractor, who was awarded the Stampede Business of the Year, to Orville and Betty Sorkin, who were awarded the title of Wagon Masters for this year's Stampede, and special shout out to our friend and past colleague Bernie Benson, who was given the Lifetime Honorary Member, and I understand that award hasn't been given in 20 plus years, and we who have had the privilege and the honor to work with Bernie in the past know how passionate she was about the Stampede, so it's well deserved. Yes, as mentioned, the Stampede Parade was a lot of fun. It was great to see smiling faces. It was a beautiful night, and albeit the first iteration of a parade in a long time was a little shorter than some, I think that there was enough energy there that this parade will do nothing but grow. So thank you to the organizers and the Downtown Association, as well as the Stampede for putting that together. Attended in a matter of one day, the ground turning at the Blossoming Garden of Hope. Then from there went to the Northwest Polytechnic for a provincial announcement where Minister Nicolaides announced that almost 100 new seats are being awarded at Northwest Polytechnic, and in particular, approximately 70 of them in the public healthcare sector and services. So excellent news for our region. Statistics shows that that about 90% of healthcare professionals that are trained in our region stay in our region. So that was a great win for the region. Also on that day, myself and CEO Nicolay attended the official homecoming, landing, whatever, I can't recall the official term of it, but the STARS H-145 helicopter landed at the base that day, a $13 million asset into our region, saving lives. STARS Air Ambulance has saved and rescued 50,000 people over its span of operation. They now have 10 new helicopters at $13 million a pop. So congratulations to that organization and for everyone who helped buy a calendar, buy a lottery ticket, help fundraise, the donors, the supporters, the volunteers. That is something for us to be very proud that operates in our region on a day in, day out basis. Thank you all for the thank yous for the Mid-Sized City Mayors event. As mentioned, 20 of 23 Mid-Sized City Mayors attended, with many of them bringing their CAOs. It was a very full day and a half. We had the privilege of sitting down with the Alberta Municipalities Board for dinner one night, toured the art gallery. We got to watch the hockey game, and about a third of them wore Calgary jerseys. The other 2/3 wore Oilers jerseys. We got to visit a local establishment and a restaurant and watch the game, which was great fun. We also had the privilege over a couple days, Minister McIver spoke to the room, as well as Minister Taves. MLA Allard spoke to the group, and in addition, Aquaterra came out and talked about the work they're doing, not only in our region, but across the province. So it was a very informative, best practice sharing event, and we also took the crew out to Stampede. So they thoroughly enjoyed their time. They toured facilities from the coordinated care campus to the hospital to Eastlink, and many, many mayors pulled me aside and mentioned how privileged we are, how lucky we are to have the facilities we do, and to have so many people behind us in this community. They thoroughly enjoyed their stay. Then on Saturday, the event wrapped up about noon, and I attended the donor appreciation, as mentioned. So congratulations to the Hospital Foundation, and thank you, previous council and council colleagues, for supporting the Hospital Foundation's initiative. They raised just over $21 million, which goes right into our own hospital, so it's something to be proud of. And then last but not least, yesterday I jumped on and was able to bring greetings for the Shell Livewire, which is, if you're not familiar, a community foundation initiative that supports Indigenous entrepreneurs. They awarded one gentleman yesterday, but there was 6 finalists who all got awards, but it was a great opportunity to learn a little bit about some of the work that Shell Livewire is doing. So thank you to the Community Foundation for inviting me to that. And I think that is everything. I can tell you, though, that we have been so busy that I really want to thank Councillor O'Toole and Councillor Bosch and all of you for picking up the things that I can't do, because if I'm busy, I know you're busy. So thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy your... Oh, sorry, Councillor O'Toole, I'll give you the last word.
Okay, well, before you got the stars, I was asked to speak at the reception, and you didn't... you got there right at the right time. The helicopter had landed, and it's a wonderful thing to have as an asset in this region. I also attended the Blossoming Gardens, but most of all I wanted to bring up as well is the Combative Sports Commission. I've been doing a little bit of work, as well as Stephanie. The Edmonton Council wants to bring forward and support a provincial Combative Sports Commission, so that's going to be in our mind for a little bit, to see how it benefits Grande Prairie and how it benefits the rest of the province. And with that, I know this has been a long day, and I thank you very much, and that's my report.
Thanks so much for that, Councillor O'Toole. Just one thing, myself and 4 of my colleagues from council are heading to Regina this week to attend FCM, where we have an opportunity to learn best practices, an opportunity to share stories and exchange ideas. So I look forward to us bringing back some great ideas. And if I don't see you then, I'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Great meeting. And I was one of those 50,000.